And I walk away and I'm like, I just made a fool of myself in front of Kelly Starrett.
There are no absolutes in training. There is only why, based off of the best science at the time. That was what Arnold did. That was what Stallone did. The fitness industry plays to the ignorance of the people. We coach everyone to a single set to momentary muscular failure with precision technique.
So, what is pain? So, pain is a neurological phenomenon. We're still kind of like coming out of the dark ages with understanding it, but your body only has one mechanism. I learned this from a client of mine who's a psychotherapist for 4 years. Your body only has one way to process pain, be it emotional, spiritual, or physical. And all of that is rooted in your mind. So, like, a lot of people will think, I have pain here, something there is hurt. And the more and more we learn, the more we realize that may or may not be true. There can be biomechanical triggers, there can be psychosocial triggers, there can be psycho-emotional triggers for what triggers pain, but it originates in your brain. So like when you break a pinky toe, like there's a perfect example of this is a fighter named John Jones. He had whooped this guy, Chael Sonnen is actually from Oregon, was number 2 in the world, beat this dude's ass, and they get in their interview, I'm like, oh my God, and they look down and Joe Rogan's like, you did that on that toe? That's crazy. His pinky toe was literally snapped off. Like the skin ripped and everything, and he goes, what do you mean? And he looks at it, he goes, instantly he pulls his foot up, he goes into shock, but he had not even noticed. That's kind of what we're learning about pain is that it can have biomechanical triggers, it can have psycho-emotional, psychosocial, but it always originates in your brain. And an understanding of that can help because you have more people now doing foam rolling and all of these supposed therapies. There's more chiropractors and massage therapists than ever, and yet pain med use is at all-time highs. And here's another interesting fact. Ibuprofen and Tylenol are no longer outperforming placebo in double-blind studies. Yes, sir. The brain is going to be the next big thing. Right now, there is a diabetes drug that cannot get cleared by the FDA because, for a prescription to get cleared, it has to outperform placebo by at least 30%. This diabetes drug is not outperforming placebo at all. And they're even observing the physiological mechanisms, the body regulating the insulin like the drug is supposed to with the placebo group. The New York Times actually, of all the things, blew the whistle on this one. They were talking about, like, if you played baseball, don't go to an orthopedic surgeon because they're just going to recommend rotator cuff surgery. But in the studies, the actual group that got the rotator cuff worked on had the worst outcomes for a pain intervention. Placebo surgery, placebo medicine, and actually pain pills did more than the actual surgery. One of the things that we're learning is someone will develop pain, and then they will go an image and they will find deterioration, which is normal with the age of the individual, and recommend surgery when, like, for example, back pain. It's 50-50 if you get a discectomy or a spinal fusion on the relief of your back pain. It's 50-50. And if left alone, it's like 80% of them, maybe it's 70, but it's over 50% of them will what's called spontaneous healing will resolve itself. The pain just goes away, and the person goes, "Oh, my back is better." The biomechanical trigger is still there. The thing that may have made you go off on the pain is still there, but now you no longer feel pain in it. Like, I have a knee here where I tore my ACL before a fight, completely off the bone. I've never had surgery, and the knee is just fine. I fought 5 weeks later and knocked this kid out. It's on YouTube. You can go look it up. And with knees in the face, ironically. And the crazy thing about this is, I said this to a client. I asked him, I go, do you believe that the earth was created in 6 days like Genesis says? And he says, believe in evolution. I go, why? And he goes, because the preponderance of the evidence suggests some kind of the Big Bang and evolution. I said, as understood in the literature as that is, the fact that pain is a psychological phenomenon that may have psycho-emotional, biomechanical, or psychosocial triggers is every bit as understood. But it doesn't make it out of there because we have a $100 billion, not million, billion dollar pain management system in the West that people use. So if you were taught what pain actually is, and this is one thing I'll say to my clients when they complain about a pain, I'm like, how much water have you had today? How much water have you had the previous 5 or 6 days? How much sleep have you had? That's one of my mentors, Kelly Starrett. So you go to him and are like, I need my knee worked on. He'll be like, how much did you sleep last night? What's your average sleep? If you're under 8 hours, he sends you home. There's no point in trying to stretch you, mobilize you, corrective exercise you because you're not sleeping. Then he asks you about your diet. Are you getting, I think his thing is 800 grams of fruits and vegetables a day. Are you getting a gallon of water a day? Are you just walking, moving lightly?
Right.
If you're not doing all of those things, why on earth would I begin to try to mobilize the joint? You haven't even dealt with the base physiology to even let your body's natural mechanism handle this. The funny Kelly Starrett story. So we drove. This is when I was very poor. So I think it was down 12, 11 maybe. I think it was 11. Me and my buddy Piper, who was a massage therapist, and my business partner at the time, Charles, who was a massage therapist and trainer. We were so poor that we rented a car and drove down to California, but flew back. So we spent all day in the car driving down to San Francisco. We get there, we see Kelly, and Kelly is who you think he is. He is standing with perfect posture, holding his phone in front of him, not bent over slouching. And so we walk in there, we get done, I walk up to him, I go, hey, I drove from Portland to meet you. You're like, I'm trying to think like one of my heroes. And I said, you're like, I'm shaking his hand. And he's like, hey, good to have you. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, okay. He pats me on the shoulder. And I walk away and I'm like, I just made a fool of myself in front of Kelly Starrett. So then I'm in there in the bathroom in the urinal on a break and I turn around, he's there. And I just got done zipping up and I just stared at him. It was so embarrassing. By the end of it, it was cool, and he's super cool. His heart is in the right place, and he's super passionate. And I mean, no one likes to admit this, all the people that like to crap on him now, but like, he made caring about the quality of your movement cool. He's making like the reason people track their sleep with Oura rings, like he's one of the people that made all that stuff cool. So like, he's done a lot of good for the world. And still, his newest book, Built to Move, great book, phenomenal book. And again, this gets into the pain science aspect of it, where people like to shit on him now and be like, the stretching a tight muscle doesn't relieve the pain. No, it does not. But this, to Kelly's credit, he used to always say pain is a lagging indicator. If you have someone in pain and they're, I've seen this work over and over. I'll tell them you're fine. And I'll explain to them the phenomenology of pain in the brain, all that. My knee still hurts. All right, let's check your hamstring leg. From up on the table to resolve it immediately. It's because I'm in pain. And psychosocially, I have been programmed there's something we can do about that pain. So telling the person just it's in your head and go on, this does no good. So if you can find a biomechanical thing where maybe they're missing a little hamstring range, the hamstring missing range is not causing the pain, but you taking care for the person and doing something to make them feel like we're actively going against it is going to and then make feel better. I had this woman, Grace, that I kept explaining. I would send her some of Kelly's videos on pain being a lagging indicator and it doesn't mean anything and blah, blah, blah. One day I pulled her up, her hamstring was a little short. We stretched on it a couple days in a row. The hamstring was better. We haven't had to deal with it since. That tight hamstring for 3 days wasn't what was triggering her knee pain, but me taking the time to hear her to feel seen and heard, and then me taking action, a preventative and a healing action towards her, even though I know it's just giving her a little bit of hamstring length on one side. It is a neurological phenomenon that she's only going to keep 50%, but I know it's not doing what she thinks it is, but that doesn't matter. It helped her. And then she was out of pain and was able to train again. So another thing that people like shit on him is like, he's teaching pain science a lot too. He wasn't first to the table on that stuff. He fought it a while till the evidence just became so overwhelming that, a tight muscle doesn't cause pain. But acknowledging that the tight muscle doesn't cause pain and telling the person it's in your head, that doesn't help them neither. So explaining them that pain is a complex neurological phenomenon that as many triggers, and we're going to check this. This could be the biomechanical trigger. And you taking the time to work with them and hear them and do something that they can tie in and believe in is going to help them, I see no harm in that. Now, when they become addicted, where I draw a line and go do it, oh, I haven't stretched today. That's why I haven't stretched. No. Now you're becoming addicted to the intervention. The intervention should only be a handful of times to resolve the thing. If you see people that like can't do anything, they jump on their foam roller, or they, do a certain stretch of their PT exercises. Years, we have a guy here who still comes on his PT exercises 6 months after he's been cleared for everything and is fine. That is a crutch. Now the world has made you a victim and has made you dependent on a crutch that is these things. And so you want the intervention to be something that's just an intervention to get you back. And Kelly talked a lot, get you back to squatting, to deadlifting, to overhead pressing, to bent over rowing, to dips. Like, it should be just a quick little blip, like getting off the road to go to the bathroom and getting back on the road. It should not be part of the road.
Kelly also talks about an ass to grass squat.
Yes, but here's the thing also, and this is where I would, challenge Kelly on that one, as I would go, okay, yeah, 100%. 1 in 3 people have asymmetrical hips.
And walk that out for people. What does that mean?
So a hip scour is where you lace them on the back, you put their spine at neutral, and then you straighten one leg, and you just make sure that they can get the femur above the pelvis, so they get past 90 where they would in a squat without any pelvic flexion, and then you move it around and you find where it runs into the edge of the acetabulum. I stole it from Stuart McGill, another brilliant scientist, probably the world's foremost expert spine biomechanist in the world, as a $100 million lab in Waterloo, Canada. The two with his ass to grass squat. Where challenge is that, I think we're seeing a correlation, not causation relationship there. I know a lot of people that don't have hip and knee dysplasia that don't they don't sleep on the floor or toilet on the floor, that can't hold that ass to ankle squat without too much discomfort. There's lots of people that don't. Also, if you have a whole bunch of people that are the same limited genetic material procreating, right? These tribes and stuff he describes that he sees. It's like, yeah, well, all of the people are going to have these inherent genetic traits. And then also, when someone is young enough, the tissue is still supple and the bone is still flexible, like my youngest kid. You may have some change there, and they could just adapt. But again, there's no inherently bad position. So you take someone whose maybe hip is a little asymmetrical, and maybe they don't have the hip capsule to it, but because everyone in the village, you have no choice but to squat down that way. Their body, it makes the prerequisite adaptations to be able to do that. Now, whether those adaptations led to the lack of hip and knee dysplasia, I'm not willing to say that. But I just think it's an oversimplification. Just be able to do this one thing, and then you are almost free of the risk of any danger, because there's a lot of people that can't do it, that don't have those problems either. And I don't like the language around it. This thing will come for you if you can't do this, or this is that keep like. I don't want anyone assuming that they're going to deal with hip dysplasia or knee dysplasia. If you notice, when I coach you, I don't ever coach from this is bad for you. I coach from this is more efficient for power production. This is going to allow you to stimulate the muscle better. I very rarely coach from a position of I want you or to be fear of there's danger here, because strength training as a whole is relatively safe. I mean, it's like 0.003. I mean, it's just a fraction of 1% of people get injured doing it, and there's lots of people doing it wrong. So I don't like that thing. Not everyone is built to do the ass ankle squat. There are different cultures that everyone can do it. And well, there's a funny joke here, and I have this client's V and Chris. V is Chinese, Chris is from like Pittsburgh, Maryland, white dude. So Chris can do the Asian squat. He can just sit on his ass to ankles and just sit there all day. The joke I used to make with V was V could never do it till she started training with me and she got stronger. And so I used to joke with her that I made her a real Asian. And she used to laugh her ass off. But she can't do it like Chris can. Chris can just plop down there and just, ironically, she never could squat before. When I met her, we did the hip capsule scour, and she's like, oh, that's what sold her that I knew what I was talking about. because she finally had a physical therapist because she could never squat without pain. It did that. I was like, oh, your hips are not symmetrical. One hip does not go out as far. Your femur cannot rotate out as far as the other. So when I did that on day 1 and we fixed her squat that way, she's as close to doing it as she's ever been able to. So again, there's one of my mentors, Jason Santana, just did this thing on how they asked him, where does all your energy come from? He goes, genetics. He goes, there's a genetic bandwidth to everything. So that's where I would challenge Kelly, is that I think the genetic bandwidth of those people and the cultural impact that everyone has to do this has led to a society making the adaptations to hold that position. Now, whether those adaptations that allow them to hold that position can be correlated to a reduction in hip and knee pain, I'm not ready to take that leap. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying Kelly's wrong, but I'm also not willing to say he's right. I don't think it's been studied enough or the evidence bears out a conclusion either way. I think it just is one of those things that, these people do the deep squat and they don't have these problems. You could get into the fact that these people generally eat better diet, the more active as a whole, better community. There's just so much that goes into it that you try to isolate out that one piece. Again, it's great for a YouTube clip when you're a really good looking jack dude on a skateboard in SoCal. It's not something though that I would take that leap of.
Do you know anything about Tim Ferriss? Have you read The 4-Hour Body?
I have. The thing with the 4-Hour Body is that Tim just wanted to find the absolute minimum that a person could work out and still make any, not meaningful, not optimal, not even good, but any progress.
Yeah.
And that's where the book, I think, gets misused a lot, is because it was his journey to go, okay, everyone has heard about marathon runners and bodybuilders, and Arnold did 2 hours in the morning, at night, and fucking Randy Couture for his fights would do like every Ali ran 20 miles a day, all this stuff. So we've heard of that. Is there a world where I work out 2 minutes a day or 4 minutes a day and make any kind of meaningful progress? That was his mindset, to try to find the bottom of the barrel, because we know the upper limit of what people brag about, which to that extent, I think that anyone in fitness that has a reasonable, rational brain should be grateful for the book, because that message getting put out had never made it as mainstream. Arthur Jones, the founder of Nautilus, tried to say, he said, this is an Arthur Jones quote, volume is a negative, no matter how you ascribe it to fitness. You have to have it to have a workout, but volume is always a negative, because the more work you do other than the absolute minimum to trigger adaptation is just stacking fatigue. So the case of volume, it is always a negative. Ideally, if you could walk in and I went a la boom, and all your muscles have been stimulated like they just did, and you went out, you would grow so damn fast it would blow your mind, because there'd be no fatigue to overcome. There'd no be restoring from the exhaustive effects of the workout. So Arthur Jones said this. Mike Metzer, the first ever perfect score in bodybuilding and Mr. Universe, said this. Many people have said it. It never made it mainstream. The idea that you should, and I think I said this on one of the other podcasts, but the question when you go to start fitness should not be how much can I endure, but what is the least amount I need to make meaningful progress. That's where I would differentiate from Tim. Is it just any progress? Because I charge people. I can't be like, we upped your squat 20 pounds in a year. Be grateful. And now you squat from 80 to 100. Like that, I got to make meaningful progress with the person. But so that should be where you start. What is the least amount of work required to make meaningful progress? Because then you can always add more. So the fact that Tim was asking the question, what is the minimal amount of exercise needed to start making progress, is a paradigm shifting idea that no one had been able to bring to the mainstream except till Tim did it. So to that, anyone with a rational brain who likes to think about this stuff owes Tim a debt, because we can point to that. Now, how he squared that circle, how he solved that equation is where my disagree. He's a huge kettlebell. I get why. I have all of Pavel's books. I've met Pavel. I'm Strong First, barbell and kettlebell certified. I've been down that world. I just don't think the kettlebell holds weight long term. And a lot of what, if I remember correctly, one of Tim's big things in there was he loved the program minimum that Pavel did, which was swings and Turkish get-ups.
Yep.
Turkish get-ups may very well be the most useless exercise on the face of the earth. The swing is irreplaceable. And for more advanced people, I have it in as a finisher where they do like, we do our 1 set to failure on pull downs. Now we hand you a 50-pound kettlebell and go 1 set to failure on kettlebell swings, and it's fucking horrible. But so how his solution, his bare minimum, I do not like for a variety of reasons. But any great thing starts with the idea of thought, and the thought that what is the least amount of exercise we need to for the average person to make progress is a profound one that people have been trying to get that message out because it just works better. Like I have clients that just like the records I've seen this year, less exercise, more intensely, just works better than more exercise at low intensities. It just does. And so the fact that Tim was able to get the idea that no, you should maybe not be spending an hour in the gym a day, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week, or even sometimes once a week, depending on your training level and all of that. The fact that he was able to get that idea into so many people's hands where Arthur Jones and Ellington Darden and Mike Metzer and all these other people had failed, I think everyone kind of owes him a debt to that because it's a life-changing paradigm way shifting thing. You make fitness a part of your life, not your life. As far as the book and that impact, it cannot be overstated. It's kind of like when people are like, what do you think of CrossFit? I'm like, it's a lot wrong there, but stuff for CrossFit, little gyms like mine don't exist because they made it more palatable to the mainstream public. And Tim Ferriss made more intense, infrequent, shorter workouts more palatable to the mainstream public.